Picture this, October 31st, 1964. A warm autumn evening in Greenlawn, New York, where children in bedsheet ghost costumes and painted cardboard masks run from house to house, clutching paper bags that smell of chocolate and sugar. Porch lights glow yellow. Mothers wait at sidewalk edges, their silhouettes backlit by living room lamps where the evening news flickers on black and white television sets. The children laugh, their breath visible in the cooling air, their footsteps crunching through fallen leaves that smell of earth and decay. They ring doorbells and shout their familiar chorus, expecting Hershey bars that cost 5 cents each, candy corn sold in bulk for 35 cents per pound, or homemade popcorn balls wrapped in wax paper by neighborhood mothers. They expect kindness. They expect tradition. They do not expect what Helen Pfeil is about to give them. Today we inspect every piece of Halloween candy under kitchen lights. We throw away anything unwrapped. Hospitals offer free X-ray services. Police departments issue warnings. Parents check online databases and neighborhood apps. We have turned Halloween into a security operation, a night governed by suspicion rather than trust. But back then, on that autumn evening in 1964, Halloween still belonged to an older America, one where unlocked doors and handshake agreements and homemade treats passed freely between neighbors who knew each other as names. Helen Pfeil was 45 years old that Halloween, a housewife in a middle-class Long Island suburb where ranch houses with attached garages sold for around $18,000, where the average family income hovered near $6,500 per year, where fathers commuted to Manhattan on the Long Island Railroad for 90 cents each way. She lived in a neighborhood of trimmed lawns and station wagons, of backyard barbecues and bridge clubs, of children who played outside until streetlights came on. It was a neighborhood that embodied the post-war American dream, the one advertised in Life magazine and promised by political candidates, the dream of safety and prosperity and endless forward motion. But something in Helen Pfeil had soured. Perhaps it was the noise, the constant ringing of her doorbell, the endless parade of children she did not know demanding candy she had spent her grocery money to buy. Perhaps it was deeper, a frustration with domesticity itself, with the role assigned to women in those carefully ordered suburbs. Whatever the reason, she decided to teach the older trick-or-treaters a lesson. She prepared special packages. Inside, she placed items that would disturb ant buttons, which were small poisonous discs used to kill ants, along with dog biscuits and steel wool pads. She attached labels to these packages, notes written in her own hand, messages that were meant to be cutting and humorous, but came across as something else entirely. The children took their treats home. Parents inspected the haul as parents did even then, though with less systematic vigilance. They opened the packages, they read the notes, they saw the ant poison marked with skull and crossbones. Within hours, police received calls. By the next morning, Helen Pfeil was under arrest, charged with endangering the welfare of children. The story exploded across newspapers. The Associated Press carried it nationwide. By November 2, 1964, every parent in America knew what had happened in Greenlawn, New York. It was not just about one disturbed woman making poor choices. It was about what that story represented, the fear it confirmed, the trust it shattered. Americans in 1964 were already nervous, already sensing that something fundamental was changing. President Kennedy had been assassinated just 11 months earlier. The Warren Commission report had been released in September, raising more questions than it answered. The Vietnam War was escalating, though most Americans did not yet grasp its scope. The Civil Rights Act had passed that summer, promising change that would reshape the nation. The Beatles had appeared on The Ed Sullivan Show in February, signaling a youth culture that would challenge every established norm. The world felt unstable, unmoored, dangerous in ways both visible and invisible. Halloween had always been a liminal night, a moment when boundaries dissolved, when children donned masks and knocked on strangers' doors, when communities enacted ancient rituals of hospitality and exchange. But those rituals depended on trust, on the unspoken agreement that neighbors wished each other well, that adults protected children, that communities were bound by mutual care. Helen Pfeil broke that agreement. She took the tradition and twisted it, weaponized it, turned the moment of exchange into something cruel. The candy itself had been so cheap, so abundant. A Snickers bar cost a nickel in 1964, equivalent to roughly 45 cents today. A bag of miniature Milky Ways sold for 39 cents and contained enough candy for a dozen children. For $5, a housewife could supply treats for 50 trick-or-treaters and still have change left over. The economy was strong. Unemployment stood at 5%. Factory workers earned $2.50 per hour, about $22 in modern terms. The middle class was expanding. Home ownership was rising. Halloween candy was not a financial burden. It was a small investment in community cohesion, in keeping traditions alive, in maintaining the fabric of neighborhood life. Today, we spend an estimated $3 billion nationally on Halloween candy each year, roughly $10 per person. We buy it from big box stores in bulk packages designed to prevent tampering, sealed in plastic and wrapped in corporate logos. We hand it out quickly, often without conversation, sometimes leaving bowls on porches to avoid interaction entirely. Back then, the exchange carried meaning. Children learned to say thank you, adults learned their names. The ritual reinforced connections, reminded people they belonged to something larger than themselves. But Helen Pfeil changed everything. Her arrest sparked panic. Other stories emerged, most of them false or exaggerated, tales of razor blades hidden in apples, needles inserted into candy bars, poisoned chocolates distributed by sadists. Sociologists would later call this a moral panic, a collective anxiety that far exceeded the actual danger. Studies have since shown that incidents of Halloween candy tampering are extraordinarily rare, and when they occur, they almost always involve family members, not strangers. But facts do not calm fear. The damage was done. Police departments began offering inspection services. Hospitals opened their X-ray facilities. Parents started accompanying their children door to door, something that had been uncommon before 1964. Homemade treats disappeared first. By the early 1970s, most families refused anything not factory sealed. The popcorn balls wrapped in wax paper, the caramel apples rolled in crushed peanuts, the cookies frosted with orange icing, all vanished from Halloween. With them went something harder to quantify: the domestic labor of women, the craft and care embedded in homemade treats, the personal touch that differentiated one house from another. The children who trick-or-treated that night in Greenlawn, who received Helen Pfeil's disturbing packages, are in their late 60s now. They remember. Some recall the fear, the confusion, the moment their parents explained that someone had tried to hurt them. Others remember the news cameras, the police cars in the cul-de-sac, the way their quiet suburb suddenly became famous for something terrible. All of them grew up in the world Helen Pfeil helped create. A world where trust had limits, where strangers were suspects, where even holidays required security protocols. The culture shifted. By the 1980s, milk cartons displayed photos of missing children. Stranger danger became a parenting mantra. Supervised playdates replaced free-range wandering. The collective anxiety that Helen Pfeil crystallized in 1964 expanded to encompass all aspects of childhood, transforming American parenting from a relaxed practice into an intensive security operation. Neighborhoods that once felt like extended families became collections of isolated households, each protecting its own. Yet somehow, Halloween survives. Children still dress in costumes, still knock on doors, still collect candy in plastic pumpkins or pillowcases. The ritual persists even as its meaning has changed. We perform the motions of community while maintaining vigilance against it. We teach children to trust no one while sending them into the night to interact with neighbors. The contradiction defines modern American life. The yearning for connection, the fear of vulnerability, the desperate attempt to have both safety and spontaneity. Helen Pfeil herself expressed remorse. She claimed it was meant as a joke, a commentary on teenagers who were too old to trick-or-treat. She paid a fine and faded into obscurity, but her legacy endures in every inspected candy bag, every parental warning, every hospital x-ray offered free on November 1st. She became the monster in the story, the cautionary tale, the reason we can no longer trust what our neighbors offer. Perhaps that is unfair. Perhaps she was simply one troubled woman on one bad night. But history does not care about fairness. It cares about moments that crystallize change, incidents that give shape to diffuse anxieties, stories that explain why the world feels different than it once did. The autumn evening in Greenlawn remains frozen in memory, a hinge point where one version of America ended and another began. Before that night, Halloween was about abundance and trust and community. After it, Halloween became about vigilance and fear and isolation. The candy still flows freely, perhaps more than ever, but the exchange has lost its innocence. We give and receive with guards raised, with suspicions active, with the knowledge that kindness can hide cruelty, that neighbors might wish us harm, that even chocolate carries risk. Helen Pfeil taught us that lesson on October 31st, 1964. We have never forgotten.